A wounded bobcat, limping along a deserted country road, should have fled the moment it spotted a human approaching. Instead, something absolutely incredible happened that defied every law of nature. Jack Wilson couldn't believe his eyes as the magnificent wildcat, clearly injured and desperate, actually walked toward him with unmistakable trust and recognition gleaming in its golden eyes. This wasn't just any random encounter between man and beast. This was Blaze, the same helpless cub Jack had rescued years earlier at the Wildlife Rehabilitation Center. The tiny, fragile animal he'd bottle-fed through sleepless nights, cradled during thunderstorms and painstakingly nursed back to health before making the heartbreaking decision to release him into the wild where he belonged. Now, against astronomical odds, Blaze had somehow found his way back to the one person who'd shown him compassion when the world seemed hopeless. But as Jack knelt down and saw the severity of Blaze's injuries, his heart sank. The proud bobcat was suffering from wounds that told a terrifying story of survival, and time was running out fast. What happened next would not only save Blaze's life, but lead to a decision so shocking that wildlife experts around the world would question everything they thought they knew about the bond between humans and wild animals. Jack's hands trembled as he carefully lifted Blaze into his truck, the bobcat offering no resistance, a trust that spoke volumes about their incredible bond. Every second counted as Jack raced through winding country roads toward the Wildlife Rehabilitation Center, his heart pounding with each labored breath he heard from his old friend. The drive that usually took 20 minutes felt like an eternity, with Jack whispering words of encouragement to keep Blaze conscious and fighting. Dr. Emily Carter, the center's lead veterinarian, had seen countless injured animals throughout her career, but even she gasped when Jack burst through the doors carrying the battered bobcat. Blaze's beautiful coat was matted with blood. Deep gashes crisscrossed his muscular frame, and his breathing was dangerously shallow. The evidence was unmistakable. This wasn't just any accident. The pattern of wounds, the defensive marks on his paws, and the way his left shoulder hung at an unnatural angle painted a vivid picture of a brutal encounter with a mountain lion. He's severely dehydrated and showing signs of infection, Dr. Carter announced grimly as she worked with practiced efficiency. These wounds are at least 3 days old, maybe more. He's been fighting for his life out there. The examination revealed internal injuries that made Jack's stomach turn. Blaze had suffered broken ribs, a punctured lung, and wounds that had begun festering in the wilderness heat. Night after night, Jack refused to leave Blaze's side. He slept in an uncomfortable chair beside the recovery kennel, his weathered hands stroking the bobcat's fur whenever Blaze stirred restlessly. There were critical moments when the monitors showed Blaze's vital signs dropping dangerously low, and Jack feared he might lose his cherished friend forever. During those dark hours, Jack would lean close and share stories of their early days together, hoping his voice might anchor Blaze to this world. The infection raged through Blaze's system like wildfire, causing his temperature to spike and his body to convulse with fever. Dr. Carter worked around the clock, adjusting medications and fighting to keep the proud animal stable. "I've never seen a wild bobcat fight this hard to survive," she admitted to Jack during one particularly harrowing night. "It's like he knows you're here, and he's determined not to give up." Slowly, almost miraculously, Blaze began to turn the corner. His appetite returned first, tentatively accepting small pieces of meat from Jack's hand, just like in the old days. Then his eyes began to brighten, that wild intelligence returning as the fog of pain and medication lifted. Each small victory felt monumental, and Jack found himself crying tears of relief when Blaze finally lifted his head and looked directly at him with full recognition. But as Blaze's physical wounds healed and his strength returned, Something unexpected began to emerge that would challenge everything the rehabilitation team thought they knew about releasing animals back into the wild. After 6 weeks of intensive care and rehabilitation, Blaze had made what could only be described as a miraculous recovery. His wounds had healed into barely visible scars beneath his thick fur. His powerful muscles had regained their strength, and his hunting instincts were as sharp as ever. According to every textbook and years of experience, this was the moment when Blaze should have been yearning for freedom, pacing restlessly against his enclosure, desperate to return to the vast wilderness that was his birthright. Instead, something absolutely extraordinary was happening that left the entire rehabilitation team scratching their heads in bewilderment. When they opened Blaze's recovery kennel for his daily exercise, he didn't bolt for the nearest exit or show any signs of wanting to escape. Rather, he would calmly step out, stretch his magnificent frame, and then, incredibly, choose to stay close to the center's facilities, as if he'd made a conscious decision that this was exactly where he belonged. Dr. Carter had never encountered anything like it in her 15 years of wildlife rehabilitation. Every instinct tells us he should be ready to return to the wild, she confided to Jack, as they watched Blaze leisurely grooming himself in the afternoon sun. His physical condition is perfect, his reflexes are sharp, and he's certainly capable of hunting and surviving on his own. But look at him, he's completely content here. What made Blaze's behavior even more remarkable was how he seemed to understand the delicate balance between his wild nature and this new life he'd chosen. He would hunt the occasional rabbit or bird that wandered onto the property, maintaining his predatory skills, yet he showed no aggression toward the staff or volunteers. Instead, he appeared to have appointed himself as some sort of unofficial guardian of the center, patrolling the grounds with quiet dignity and observing the daily activities with intelligent, watchful eyes. The other rescued animals seemed to sense something special about Blaze, too. Young cubs would watch him with fascination from their enclosures, and even the most skittish wildlife would calm down when he was nearby. It was as if his presence communicated a message of safety and hope, that healing was possible, that trust could be rebuilt, and that sometimes the most unexpected bonds could form between species. Visitors to the center began noticing the majestic bobcat, who moved freely around the property, and word started spreading about this remarkable animal who had chosen companionship over complete wildness. Blaze seemed to thrive on the attention, carrying himself with the confidence of an ambassador rather than a captive. He would position himself where people could see him, almost as if he understood his role in educating humans about wildlife conservation. But what truly amazed everyone was the deepening relationship between Blaze and Jack, a connection that was about to evolve into something that would redefine how the world understood the possibilities of human-animal relationships. Topic 04: The symbiotic and inspiring bond between Jack and Blaze. What began as a rescue story had transformed into something far more profound. A friendship that transcended every boundary between human and wild animal that anyone had ever witnessed. Jack Wilson, a 78-year-old retired carpenter who had started volunteering at the center after losing his wife, found in Blaze not just a success story, but a kindred spirit who filled a void in his heart he hadn't even realized existed. Their daily routine became a beautiful dance of mutual respect and genuine affection. Each morning, Jack would arrive at the center to find Blaze waiting by the gate, as if the bobcat had an internal clock perfectly synchronized with his human friend's schedule. They would walk the property together, Jack sharing stories about his late wife Martha, while Blaze listened with an attention that seemed almost human in its intensity. The big cat would occasionally brush against Jack's leg, or rest his massive head against the old man's weathered hands, gestures that spoke louder than any words ever could. "I've spent my whole career studying animal behavior," Dr. Carter would tell visitors, "but I've never seen anything like the relationship between Jack and Blaze. It's not ownership, it's not domestication, it's genuine friendship based on mutual choice and respect." She would often pause her work just to watch them together, marveling at how Blaze would actually seem to smile when Jack approached, his golden eyes lighting up with unmistakable joy. The bond between them became a source of healing for both. Jack, who had struggled with loneliness and a sense of purposelessness after retirement, discovered that caring for Blaze gave his days meaning and structure. Meanwhile, Blaze, who could have easily returned to a solitary life in the wilderness, seemed to have found in Jack the family connection that made his choice to stay worthwhile. They complemented each other perfectly, Jack's gentle wisdom balancing Blaze's wild strength, creating a partnership that neither had known they needed. Their friendship began attracting attention from wildlife researchers and animal behaviorists around the world. Videos of Jack and Blaze walking together, the bobcat responding to his name and actually appearing to engage in conversation with Jack's storytelling, went viral on social media. Scientists who had previously believed such deep interspecies bonds were impossible began questioning their assumptions about the emotional capacity of wild animals and the potential for genuine relationships between humans and apex predators. Jack would often sit on his favorite bench under the old oak tree, with Blaze stretched out beside him like a massive purring house cat. "People ask me if I'm afraid of him," Jack would chuckle to visitors. "But how can you be afraid of your best friend? Blaze chose to trust me, and I choose to trust him. That's what real friendship is about. Choice, not circumstance." The transformation in both of their lives was remarkable to witness. Jack, once a quiet, somewhat withdrawn widower, became animated and purposeful, his eyes sparkling with stories about his extraordinary companion. Blaze, meanwhile, carried himself with a confidence and contentment that radiated throughout the entire rehabilitation center, inspiring hope in every animal and human who encountered him. But their story was just beginning to unfold in ways that would touch hearts around the globe and create a legacy that neither of them could have imagined. As years passed, Jack and Blaze became more than just companions. They became living symbols of hope and connection that touched hearts across the globe. Their story spread far beyond the Wildlife Rehabilitation Center, inspiring documentaries, books, and countless visitors who traveled from around the world just to witness their remarkable bond firsthand. At conservation events and educational programs, the unlikely pair would appear together, Jack sharing their incredible journey while Blaze sat regally beside him, his presence commanding respect and wonder from audiences of all ages. The duo became ambassadors for a new understanding of human-wildlife relationships, challenging long-held beliefs about the emotional capacity of wild animals and the potential for interspecies friendship. Jack, now in his late 80s, but more vibrant than he'd been in years, would speak passionately about respecting wildlife while acknowledging the profound connections that could sometimes form. "Blaze taught me that friendship isn't about species," he would tell captivated audiences. "It's about souls recognizing each other." Their daily walks had become legendary among the center's staff and volunteers. Even as Jack's steps grew slower and his hair turned completely white, Blaze would patiently match his pace, occasionally offering his sturdy shoulder for support when the terrain became challenging. The bobcat seemed to understand that his human friend was aging, becoming even more protective and gentle in their interactions. Visitors would often comment on how Blaze appeared to be caring for Jack just as much as Jack had once cared for him. On a peaceful autumn morning, as golden leaves danced around their favorite oak tree, Jack settled onto his usual bench, with Blaze curled up beside him. At 93, Jack had lived a full and meaningful life, enriched beyond measure by his extraordinary friendship with the magnificent Bobcat. As the sun set through the trees, casting warm light across the center grounds, Jack closed his eyes for the final time, his hand resting gently on Blaze's fur. What happened next left everyone at the center speechless and heartbroken. Blaze, who had never shown signs of illness or distress, simply laid his great head across Jack's lap and quietly passed away, as if he couldn't bear to exist in a world without his dearest friend. The veterinary examination revealed no medical cause. It was as though Blaze had made a conscious choice to follow Jack into whatever came next, displaying a loyalty and love that defied scientific explanation. True to Jack's wishes, they were buried together beneath the oak tree where they had shared countless peaceful afternoons, their final resting place marked by a simple stone that read, "Jack Wilson and Blaze, proof that friendship knows no boundaries." Their story became an international symbol of compassion, respect for wildlife, and the profound connections possible between different species when approached with love rather than fear. Today, the Rehabilitation Center has been renamed in their honor, and their legacy continues to inspire new generations of wildlife conservationists and animal lovers around the world. Jack and Blaze's incredible journey shows us that the most powerful connections in life often come from the most unexpected places. Their story challenges everything we think we know about the boundaries between species and reminds us that love, loyalty, and friendship can transcend any barrier when hearts truly connect. Think about it. How often do we limit ourselves by believing that meaningful relationships can only exist within our own familiar circles? What if we approached the world with the same openness that Jack showed when he first rescued that tiny, helpless cub? And what about Blaze's choice to stay? What does that tell us about the power of genuine care and compassion? This remarkable friendship lasted over a decade, proving that when we lead with kindness instead of fear, incredible things can happen. But here's what I want you to consider. If a wild bobcat could choose love over freedom, what choices are you making in your own relationships? Are you building bridges or walls? Their story didn't end with their passing. It continues to inspire wildlife conservation efforts and reminds us that every animal rescue matters. Every act of compassion creates ripples we may never fully see. What's the most unexpected friendship in your life? Have you ever experienced a connection that changed your perspective completely? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your own stories of unlikely bonds and surprising connections. If Jack and Blaze's story touched your heart, you're going to love the other incredible tales of survival, friendship, and hope we share on this channel. Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss these heartwarming stories that prove love truly has no boundaries. Trust me, the next story will leave you just as amazed.